Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Your Little Castle show. An exciting show today because how often do we depend on this little thing called electricity? If you don't have electricity, imagine all the things you couldn't do. I mean, cell phones, air conditioning, heart monitors, you name it, everybody, we all depend on electricity. So we decided to bring in an expert to talk about it. Man, I wish I had started off as young as this gentleman here. I won't say his age, but he's an ambitious young guy and he is doing well. Running your own company, did you say for 4 years now?
Yeah, we're going on the 5th year, yep.
Coming up on the 5th year. Give it up for Cody Potts Electric. And we're going to talk about this little electricity thing that we all try to manage and how you got started and incredible success. You ought to see the reviews he's got. Just amazing story Cody has for us. But welcome to the show, Cody.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
All right, so let's talk about it a little bit as we get started here. We always give a shout out. I saw Brooke, my buddy, over the weekend. We have some mutual friends. We went to a birthday party, and Brooke was there at Steve Ewing, who's been a guest on the show. If you follow any of the local music scene, Steve's been national. He's the lead singer of The Urge, and he and I hung out a little bit afterwards talking, and we saw that. But Brooke Dubb and Carroll House Furniture and his sister Amy, they do an incredible job. So you like nice things in your little castle. See that Brooke likes that we do that, so it's great to have him as a sponsor, big supporter of our show here, and he loves what we do in the community. With that, let's dive right in. We've got a great looking website and some social media that you guys are big on, and we want to make sure everybody learns what it is that makes Potts Electric do so well in our community and how you've turned this into something where you're really changing this little corner of the world that you're in. So let's dive in. How long have you been doing this now?
I'm going on this will be 12th year as an electrician.
12 years. Yeah. So as somebody, when you start, anything you start, once you get into a business and you've been doing it for more than 10, they say, then you've really become an expert.
You do.
But what really led you here, and then obviously we just said 4 years running your own company. Yep. What led you into this, and why did you decide to become a master electrician?
Well, when I was young, that's kind of what we did in our small town is you go to trade school. So we decided, buddies and I just kind of all picked a trade. And for me, it was electrical. And, I was young. I was 15, 16 years old, pulling wire and stuff for the local guys in the town. And so I got into it then. And honestly, I just kept on with it. And, by the time I was 22, 23 years old, I was running $15, $20 million projects, and led me to Colorado. And, I was there for a while running big projects out there. And, we decided on coming to Missouri. We, did a bunch we've been here before, being I'm from Arkansas. We've been here before. So sure. We decided to come to Missouri and find a little spot in St. Louis. And we've been here since and decided to start a company.
Well, it's a really encouraging story you've got because it is. How often would all of us dream of running our own company, especially when you're still, early in your career? I argue that if I'd have started doing this 20 years ago instead of 5 or 7 now, or maybe 30 years ago, which is possible in your age category, man, I'd be retired by now. But you get to run your own company and you get to really take control of your own life. Is that kind of what you enjoy about what you're doing?
I do. I love to, it turns into a lot of work. I mean, you get to start your own company and it's like, oh, well, I'm going to get some time off. And you work more than anything, way more than you did working for a job. But, it is absolutely, it's rewarding for sure.
Well, that's what we like to talk to. We want to encourage other people to start your own company, start your own business, and get out there and really conquer the world because on this little planet, you can do that and you can really impact what we're going on here. And when you own your own company, you call all your own shots. Now, as a matter of running your own business, it gives you a little bit of autonomy. How much free time do you end up with? My dad made a joke. He says, watch out when you start your own company. Now everybody's your boss.
Yeah, that's true.
That's the truth.
Usually I'm in between 80 to 90 a week.
Okay.
88, 90 hours a week.
But you love it. You own it.
I do. Sure. No, honestly, you don't stick doing it for this long if you don't love it, man. I fell in love with electricity. I just, it's crazy to me is what people turn their light switch on and off their entire life and never know how it actually works. So for me, that always meant something when I was young. Like, how does this work? I was always asking questions, whether that be electricity, plumbing, HVAC, whatever it may be. I was always, how does it actually work?
Right.
And for electrical, I wanted to be a master of it, and so I did. I got my master's license and was able to start a company and be successful doing it.
Well, you've done great. We'll show you some of the reviews here in a minute, everybody. But Was there a particular hobby or something that led you to this as a kid? I mean, you had to make that decision as a trade, kind of the way things went for you. But you said, you know, why'd you have a particular affinity for electricity and what it does?
I just feel like it was something that was hard to understand. I mean, it's the workings behind it and like how electricity flows and everything like that. To me, it was so fascinating. I was like, just dying to know. Couldn't get to doing it soon enough, to be honest, because when I was little, I've always wanted to know, like I said, how we plug in outlets. Why do you not touch the outlet? Why do you
Right.
not, so I just always been fascinated in it and just wanted to know more about it. And then you get to diving into it. You could do it I know guys have been doing it for 50 years, still don't know it all. So that's something I like to always be challenging myself, to learning more every day.
Well, it's exciting, and you've taken an interest and turned it into something that's turned into a lifestyle and a career now, and you really get to impact people. I had a little bit of fun with that. We had to do our little science projects. So we'll be back. Tell me how this plays out. But as a matter of kid, we created the series circuit versus the parallel circuit. Are those two different types of circuits?
They are, yeah.
And then one, if you unplug the bulb, they all go out. But the other one, if it's parallel or which one, then it would allow it to not have, you could still wire around it. Is that the fun stuff you get to figure out to help people?
Yeah, absolutely.
Wiring in their house, right?
Absolutely. I mean, you got three-way switching, you got single pole switching, you've got four-way switching, there's so many different ways you can open and close a circuit to make it work.
Well, there we go. Now we're making me take note here, everybody. There's a lot that goes on. I get my pencil out here. I got this at the gas station, believe it or not. I'm like, yeah, I have that. But when you make a good point, take note, everyone. There's a lot of ways to do this. And I was going to say, I also, personally, I've done plumbing, I've done wallboarding, I've done painting, I've done just about everything around the house, but I don't mess with the electrical stuff too often. Right. Is that a good policy? Because there's a lot, you can zap yourself, you can cause a fire.
I would stick with that, yeah, because electricity is not is probably not the one you want to experiment with. We being an electrician, luckily we do have to go through 4 years of schooling to just get our journeyman's, and then you get several years after that to get your master's. So you need to be, you don't really even allow to touch stuff until you've been doing it for a couple years. You know what I mean? I know a lot of Google videos show you how to do it, but I don't know if I would recommend it.
Yeah, Google certified to be a cook. Right.
A doctor.
A doctor, okay. But you don't want to do that with electricity because there's stuff that you could go.
That's right.
Big problems. And if you come into houses that the electricity burn the house down, I mean, there's all kinds of stuff that you can do.
We've seen it for sure.
Okay. Well, do it the right way, everybody. Get a hold of Cody here and his buddies, his crew, Potts Electric, everybody. So your favorite electrical company. Based out of here, you're based out of Fenton, right?
Yes, we are.
And Fenton is where the cowboy grew up originally as a kid also. So take note there, and serving the whole St. Louis area, which is great because we're looking for the leaders who are doing that. All right, well, let's dive in here a little bit more. I want to take a look. Now, something that was impressive that normally you don't see this, but you're a marketing guy too. You understand that marketing is so key to getting your name out, to getting people to know about you. And so when we started researching, Cody here has got over, I'm gonna cheat here, I'm putting up on the wall, but he's got over 400 reviews. And so if you're on the ball, you're always saying, because if you wait for people to give you the review, I was talking to you about how we had somebody say something, I'm like, what? That wasn't even, I didn't know who this person was.
Right.
But I said, well, then I'm gonna go find a bunch of people that I've worked with and say, tell me about your reviews. I don't know how you're getting how'd you get so many reviews? People just love your work. Are you smart to say, hey, would you please give us a review? A lot of people do offer that, but if you don't offer, because ask people to give you a review. They likely will if you do.
Yes, so we do. I'll ask people to give us a review once we finish the work and everything. Our goal is we're a 5-star premier company. So that's the thing about us is we're going to be offering you a 5-star service from the moment that you call us to get on the schedule to the moment we close out the job and we're cleaning everything up and we're cleaning the house. We clean them better than the way when we left them. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of our policy. Is offering a 5-star premier service, and it replicates. I think just on our website we have 800 and something 5-star reviews. Just
right.
So it's one of those things that if you do good work, I feel like it reciprocates. And
I'm selling you short there a little bit because it's not just this is just the Google reviews, everybody. And if you go well beyond that, you can go to the reviews that are on the website. But I've got his Google reviews pulled up here, and so here it is. We've got one we picked out here that I noticed. But I see Jeannie Lloyd. Courtney was amazing. He saved us. I ended up having to my electrical box change out, he had to move and schedule. I'm going to put this up for everybody to see too, so you can read this. There we go. There you go, everybody. The job, he explained everything to me in great detail. His work was flawless. He had it up and running in about 5 or 6 hours, and it was a trip. And that was with the trip for materials. Casey, enough great things that about his company and the professionals who work. Everyone out there is 10 out of 10. So hey, that's what you're looking for. And what was it like getting this work done for swapping out an entire electrical box, man? Why do people do that, and how big of a job is that?
So it's for us. I mean, we can typically do it 4 to 6 hours. We can change out a panel.
Okay.
When we do the outside service as well, you're talking about a full day, 8-hour job. But it's just like it's just like a used car. You put 300,000 miles on your car, it's not going to last forever.
Right.
Nothing's meant to last forever. It's a mechanical mechanism. It's not meant to last forever. So, after 25, 30, 40 years,
Right.
these things start wearing out and these breakers stop tripping. They stop doing their jobs, or they start tripping all the time. I mean, we've run into, water in the panels been the big one lately. I don't know. We've been having a lot of moisture in panels, and, I think for her, I remember her job specifically, and she had, when we opened up the panel cover, a couple cups of water came out of it.
Oh my God.
So yeah, it would be water and electricity do not match. So
yeah, that's one thing you do not want to get is any kind of electricity around water or water around electricity. I'm going to pick another one here myself this time, and see what I got here. All right, the team at Potts Electric, hands down the best experience with an electrical I've ever had. Hey, there you go. Brandon, Cody, Chase were honest, operated with integrity, and did what they said they were going to do with the amount they bid, and did the work at a high quality. I will definitely use them again. I highly recommend. Another 5-star. So does that make you? That's got to make you feel good. You got some people out here that are. I mean, they got to take the time to do this, and you're getting the response that you're looking for. Is that right?
Yes, yeah. We definitely want to always give a 5-star service, and we tell people to be honest about their review with us, and if there's anything we can do to help, if we failed at any part of our 5-star service, let us know, because we can always improve.
Well, I'm learning here. I'm a marketing guy. Obviously, everybody knows that about what we're doing here, but take note on that one. If you're saying we're going to give you 5-star service, you're already putting it into their mind. Be ready to give us a 5-star review, because everybody deserves 5 star. If we give you 5 star, you give us 5 star, and the 5 star you're going to give Cody and his team is a lot easier than the 5-star if you have to do all this kind of work and learn how to be an electrician. But all you got to do is go fill out the little form and take a minute to do that. So get those reviews. They are vital to the success of business. And Google helps to rank you with that. You notice that too. You want to show up for SEO, search engine optimization. Pay per click is a big thing. And just get organically to show up there. But these reviews have helped you, and you've earned them. Absolutely.
Yep. You boost us up with LSA, and that way you'll show up first page when you do good work. I mean, like I said, everything reciprocates if you do good work.
Well, tell everybody what LSA stands for.
Local service ads.
Yeah, local service ads. And so those are where you're going to end up getting Google to really pay attention to you too.
They will.
By now, we've all kind of learned, Google kind of controls the world with regard to what we find. There are alternatives out there and other things you can use, but 80-90% of traffic comes through on Google. So do the best you can to keep yourself highly rated. And if you need any tips for that, call me. And Cody knows what he's doing there too with us too. Go check out his website. You can learn a little bit from there as well. Well, tell me, what would you say that really separates you? If there's one thing you would nail down, you'd say separates you from your competitors. There's a fair amount of electrical companies in St. Louis. What really separates you guys from the rest?
I would say what separates us from the other companies would be the service that we provide, right? We offer huge warranties. I mean, we have 10-year warranties, 5-year warranties, lifetime warranties, and that's just premium products, all copper busing, whatever that may be. And then we're able to offer payment plans to customers. We're able to, just because somebody's panel's melting off their wall and it's, they might not have that money in the bank. So we felt like it was our obligation to make sure that the customer can figure out, hey, how do we keep power here? So we offer several different payment plans. I feel like that's things that we do that other companies don't really care to, they just want their money. I feel like a lot of times they want their money and run, but for us, it's like, well, what can we do to best interest you to make the best investment for you and your family?
Well, tell me then, I mean, when you're talking about the jobs that have to be done, sometimes these would be 15, 20. What's the largest job somebody's done with you guys, would you imagine?
We did an entire apartment complex,
Oh, wow.
and that was like couple $100,000, but
Right.
we're 99, probably I'd say 100% at this point in our business, service or residential. I mean, most of the time people can spend anywhere between $500. I mean, I've seen people spend, to get the whole system changed out, get all their outlets and switches changed out. They may have aluminum wiring, which has been an absolute nightmare. Insurance companies are canceling everybody left and right because they got aluminum wiring in their homes, and you have to remediate that.
Right.
So that's pretty expensive because it's a very extensive project. So that you can get 15 grand in changing out outlet switches, aluminum wire remediation, and changing out your electrical service. You can get to the 15 grand mark, but at least your house is 100% safe and you don't have to worry about it again. It's done.
Yeah, you want to get that professional copper wire. We do know that people at times have had aluminum, which is kind of crazy, but
back in the
save some
70s.
money back in the day by doing that. I know a lot of your mobile homes for a long time were wired that way, and they're not safe.
They're not.
Aluminum. Tell me what's the big risk with aluminum?
Well, aluminum wiring, what happens is it can melt. That's the problem with aluminum, is it gets hot enough at a certain temperature, it can melt. So it solders. People solder with aluminum. So when they have a copper connections, they don't, if they're arcing, they're not gonna melt in a connection. Versus aluminum wiring, if it comes loose, that connection comes loose, which electricity vibrates. So connections can come loose after a period of time. Okay. Aluminum wiring was put in the 70s. That was a 70s thing, really. Okay. But those connections can sit there and just arc. And when that happens, it can melt. And, we've been to multiple houses where the fire department was called out because they had a fire in their wall because of a melted connection and aluminum wiring.
Another big note, everybody, if you find that you have aluminum wiring, come in and get that replaced. So running the wires, I guess, it seems like a tedious process, but when you're good at it, you have a feeder that fishes the wire down, you go around, got to find out where that hole went through, and then pull it through, and then come out and change the electrical box too then, right?
Yeah, we've come up ways better than that because, to do that, you're talking about ripping walls down, you're talking about redoing painting. What we do now is do aluminum remediation. Now, we'll offer it to clients if they want the aluminum taken out. That's completely up to them, but for us, we can actually install these things called Alumicons, and it's an anti-seizing gel. The aluminum connection goes into the anti-seizing gel, torque spec, and then we come off with a copper connection to hit your device. So that wire at points of connection is the only spots that aluminum melts, is at points of connection. And so if you seize all points of connection with that anti-seizing gel, it will save you significant amount of money, and you'll be able to still get your aluminum wiring remediated.
This is why you got to stay with our experts and know what they're talking about. Potts Electric, Cody here, everybody. What you call that? How do you meld those together, copper and...
So the copper and aluminum, basically, they go into an Alumicon. It's an anti-seizing gel pod. Each points of connection go in there, and you can actually come off with your copper pigtail to hit your devices. That way, aluminum's not hitting your devices and getting hot. It's seized. The wire is completely seized up. Alumicons.
So there we go. Hey, now you're learning. I'm going to get the pencil out a lot today, everybody, because we've got some important notes here to take from an expert that knows what they're talking about. But yeah, I mean, all of those kinds of things are very important. How often do you run into an issue where the house has actually been around 20, 30, 40 years, and you're going, these circuits, I mean, even the circuits, they're not powerful enough, right? Because now we use how much more electricity than we used to use back in the day, and you've got to upgrade your breakers. Is that right?
A lot of services, yeah, because we run into it every day. To answer your question on that is aluminum wiring we run into every day, it seems like.
Oh, really?
Services not being up to size. People start putting EV chargers in. You can't put a 50 amp EV charger in a 100 amp panel. Back in the day, that 100 amp panel would have been just fine, but after new load calculations, people putting in hot tubs, finishing their basements out, new load demands, it's absolutely impossible to keep to a 100 amp service. Most of the time, people have to upgrade it.
Okay, well, that's what we're talking about. Stuff you're doing to help the community, everyone. That's when we put the cowboy hat on. Cody's an expert, and mostly that's what you're doing is residential, helping families. And how often do they try to run this stuff? What's the biggest problem a lot of people have? Do they try to do it themselves, or do you have to do it yourself, or you still says, I can run some electric wire, I watched the video like we talked about on YouTube. That's not a good idea. And how many times you go in and fix those? Are those causing fires, or what are the biggest problems people run into when they do the load isn't right? What problems do they cause?
Yeah, I mean, homeowners are absolutely, they can watch a video and they do it, and then it makes it twice as hard for us because we don't know how they took it apart. If I knew how they took it apart, it's one thing, but it's also other electrical contractors and stuff get in there that's not licensed, bonded, and insured or something like that, and they get in there and mess a whole deal up, and they're tail light warranty, and the moment those tail lights hit the driveway, there goes their warranty. They're gone. So we have to come in. We have to come in and fix that up. And we definitely seem to do that quite often. Fixing other people's mistakes and stuff.
Well, and your work is all guaranteed, bonded,
yeah.
insured. I mean, these are all important things, because if somebody comes in there, causes a problem, the house burns down, you can't sue them because they didn't have the insurance to have that covered.
That's right. You want to be bonded through the city, and you want to make sure you have the proper coverages. We obviously doing a lot of big work. We carry a humongous policy. There's not a house we've ever been in, that we ain't been able to, if anything were to happen, that we ain't been able to cover. But luckily, that's why we hire the best of the best, and we train these guys. We go through extensive training to make sure they know what they're doing before they even go live to go out to a customer by themselves.
There you go, everybody. So, I mean, a lot is at stake here, because you're talking about your house.
Yep.
And how often we talk to the roofing guys a lot, and the roofing is so important, because if water trickles down, how often you deal with that? Somebody didn't take care of the roof, water got into the house, came in through a soffit or under the gutters, got behind into the walls. Mm-hmm. And boy, do you just cause electrical failure, or do you cause fires, mold? How do these things all work together to cause problems that people need to be concerned with?
All of the above. I mean, once water gets in, it's pretty much it's a tough situation, because it's hard to know every little, especially if water got into an outlet. It's hard to, you'll have to diagnose the circuit. You'll have to take out and replace a lot of stuff. We run into that where the roofs leak. Plumbing pipes leak, things leak that's outside of the electrical realm, but it just happens to affect the electricity, and then that's when we need to have to come in and make sure that we are bringing this thing up to safety and code.
Safety and code, everybody. Who doesn't want to have everything brought up to proper code to make sure that everything is done correctly, because there's so much, again, at risk. The house, we talk about it all the time on the show here, the most valuable asset most everyone has, and so you want to make sure, and boy, we talk about roofing, we talk about siding, we talk about just about every component is so important, but boy, electricity, it scares me to even imagine that there are people out there that are trying to run their own electrical stuff. I've done some work with like installing a fan or something like that. Those things aren't too complicated, right? If you follow the instructions, but there's something still there you could mess up if you crossed your wires, like the black instead of the white. What risk do people have even by doing something like that?
Ceiling fans is most of the time we see people are not installing ceiling fan rated boxes. So they'll install a ceiling fan where there was a current light there that was only meant to support the weight of a light fixture, like a 3-pound light fixture, not a 25-pound fan or a 15-pound fan. So, or chandeliers, we see that a lot, and then customers hang them, and then it falls right out, rips the box out of the wall.
Yeah, it could even cause those wires to get crushed and cause some electrical problems.
You can absolutely.
What's the worst thing? Most often, you're gonna pop the fuse and pop the breaker, but sometimes it crosses those and nothing happens, and it can hit some other. I'm just talking about how often do people cause fires by doing this kind of stuff themselves.
Well, I mean, where it gets dangerous is older systems. So when you start talking about older systems that are not doing their job properly, in a proper situation where you have an updated system, if you cross the wires, it's going to pop the breaker. So at that point, you typically there's nothing going on there. It'll pop the breaker. But in a situation where you have an old service that the breaker's not doing its job anymore and it heats up, that's when you start dealing with melting and issues like that. Is when you have an older system and it's not, it's not doing its job anymore.
Melting, not something you like to hear when you're talking about your house, right? And you want to melt the chocolate on your candy bar, but you don't want to melt your house's circuits. I didn't realize, man, there's so much that goes into that. What's the average circuit? Are we still pretty much 120, and then you get, is it 220?
240,
240?
Yeah.
Okay, it's double for some people have
your oven, your air conditioner unit, if it's electric dryer.
Electric dryers.
Yeah, electric dryer. I mean, there's multiple things, furnace, so typically AV chargers, whatever. There's a lot of stuff that could be 240, and that's where load demand comes into place, because you don't want to overload an electrical panel, especially if it's not doing its job, because then you're talking major issues. Okay,
yeah, because how often are people putting too much load on the circuit? Is that what it causes it to pop? And if things pop consistently, does that cause a breaker to wear out, or how does a breaker over time deteriorate so that it can not function? What causes that?
It can trip, it can wear out, but a lot of times, even houses in the 90s, to be completely honest with you, in early 2000s, we've pulled out panels that were, the main breaker was completely melted out of the back of it, and because the client smelled a smell, and they called us early. Thankfully, they called us early, and we were able to get in there, and we found that the main breaker was completely melted. I've seen it. It's just a lot of times the load demand as we're going into we're 2024 now, so we're not using the same amount of electricity as we used 30, 20, even 20 years ago. We're plugging in a lot more stuff, a lot more electronics, and a lot more, load demands as being supplied now. So we have to make sure we accommodate for that.
Well, yeah. So how do we accommodate for that? Are we saying, all right, let's put 6 outlets in the room versus there used to only be 3 or 4? Is it one every wall, or are people putting double sockets now, and then you've got USB plugs? And how do those work into it? And can those cause problems?
So typically the USB, if they're UL listed, I wouldn't go on Amazon and just buy stuff that's not been UL listed or anything.
Okay.
But if you buy a UL listed one, you're fine. But load demand absolutely has gotten a lot different, because back in the day there was, now we've tried to put lighting circuits on their own breakers. We try to put, all the small appliances have to be on its own breakers. We go in houses every day where everything in that kitchen is tied on to one breaker. And we're like, this is why you're tripping your breaker. I mean, you've got your microwave, your
Right.
toaster oven, your Instapot or whatever it is, your Keurig, all on the same circuit, and it just don't work anymore. Your refrigerator. So now there's codes for how everything needs to be written up. So we definitely try to fix that when we can.
A lot that goes into this, and people, again, if you've got a house that was anything over than, if your house was worked on in the 1990s,
Yeah.
there's some definite load issues you should worry about there, because microwaves, I have the microwave pops a lot, are one of the circuits at my house,
Yep.
and causes it to go off. In our studio, where we record a lot of times, we put in portable air conditioners. And those take heavy loads too,
Yep.
and we run off to another room with an extension cord to get
Yep.
off that same circuit, because
Yep.
they kept popping all the time. And how often do those cause problems? What's the biggest risk? Is it just something that can cause a problem, or you got to be worried about fire, or what's the biggest risk you have with those?
Honestly, it all depends on the service. If the thing's taking a beating and it's not doing its job, then yeah, you can deal with melting and possible fires. I try not to say the fire word as much as I can. I try not to. I mean, I have been in situations where I had to tell a client, hey, we can't do anything here, because we're not going to, we think the only way to fix it, not a Band-Aid fix, it's a permanent solution.
Yeah.
So we need to replace X amount of things to make sure that this thing's brought up to safety. But if you overload a circuit over and over and over and over, I mean, it can cause, most of the time it's just going to trip the breaker, but it can cause issues for sure.
Yeah. Okay. Something to be wary there of, ladies and gentlemen. And electricity is so vital. I mean, how often do we depend on this just for our everyday livelihood? You can't have a cell phone charged without it. You got people are charging their cars now with it.
Yes.
And so we covered the first half hour here very quickly. We've asked Cody if he would stick around for a second half hour, and we're going to get into some more real depth of this, because we're going to ask him, how has the technology changed? What's the biggest mistake people often make? And then where are we headed with all this electrical stuff? So stay tuned for more, everybody. You are watching the Your Little Castle show, and we've got an expert in the building here who can really make things secure for you. Potts Electric, PottsElectric.com. Listen to what this gentleman has to say, because it can save you much headache, heartache, and problems down the road, especially if you have a house that's over 20 years old.
For sure.
All right, everybody, stay tuned for more. This is the Your Little Castle show. Giddy up.